Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the great continent of Africa. We are in week 8 of season 4 of the Reddit League. My name is Zotomo, and I'm joined as always by Calamity. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing good.
And our guest today is Division Two's Patriot, who's been kind of on a tear here. Started off in Division 4, but 2 successive promotion seasons see him in Division 2. So welcome to the show again.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
No problem. We'll see how things have been going for you this season. But we will start with Division 1, and it is the penultimate week for the regular season for them. And so let's take a look at their scores in Africa. And yes, Calamity, a big win for Mr. Blue if he wants to keep his playoff chances alive. And of course, Raidman getting another perfect game.
Yeah, definitely. And we've got no draws. It's a miracle. Yeah, you mentioned it. A perfect score for Raidman definitely helps him out, although I don't think he really needed it anymore. But yeah, Mr. Blue definitely needed that win against Blinky. Probably maybe Blinky's not his worst performance, but not the best performance out of him. Not even getting a bonus point for that. I think, unless actually, let me check. I think he might have been just on the cusp of it. No, he. I need to scroll down. Yeah, he did get one. So just about getting in there. Yeah, Chicago with a very important win against Bulgar as well to keep his not relegation hopes alive. And Simi could have really used more points than one against Raidman there. He got a pretty decent score. Would have won against most other people this week. But, you can't have everything you want. He'll have to take that 1 point. And yeah, Boxer left a lot of points on the table for Ice, but Ice couldn't take that chance either. And he's now had 0 points, I think, in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
So his season's pretty much over there.
Very nice. And Patriots, yeah, your countryman there putting up a pretty good score and giving himself a chance at the bottom of the table to survive in D1.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chicago got that win over Bulgar, who was right by him in the standings, and because of it, he still has a chance to get out of the relegation playoffs. Although score differential might get in the way of that, but if nothing else, this will give him a nice boost of confidence if he comes against Bulgar again in the playoffs.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look at how Division 1 table looks after 8 weeks. And yeah, Boxer and Raidman pretty well scaunched there at the top. Orpheus moving up. Blinky with that loss just dropped, giving himself only a 1 point advantage over Mr. Blue. Towards the other end, it looks like Simi and Ice are all but done. Bulgar is only 1 point away, Calamity, but pretty much all but sealed their fate at the bottom.
Well, not entirely, since Bulgar and Simi will play each other this week. So it's still very much all up for that last game. But yeah, on the top, Box and Raidman now confirmed as the first players to have secured their spot in the playoffs. Behind them, it's still fairly close for the other 2 spots. Orpheus needs a win if he doesn't want to worry about the other results, though even without a win, his chances are still pretty good either way. And if he can keep his unbeaten run that he's currently got, it would mean that I think since Blinky and Verdok play against each other, 2 points would mean 2 points for Orpheus would mean that Mr. Blue would already need a perfect score to even overtake him. So looking pretty good as long as he doesn't lose his game. Pretty safe up there. And Verdok is actually in a slightly better position than it looks. He does need a perfect score to get 4th place, which isn't great. But if he does get that perfect score, Mr. Blue would need 3, and Orpheus and Blinky would need at least 1 point each to stay in front of him. And 2 of them not meeting that goal is unlikely, but not out of the question. But of course, a perfect score for Verdok comes first. Without that, he's not going to get into the playoff spots. And yeah, in the meantime, down in the relegation zone, I've already mentioned Bulgar and Simi play each other next. So those 2 will make up who will get 8th spot. And yeah, Chicago, chances are still there that he makes it out of 7th place, but he does need at least, well, I say at least, he does need a perfect score. He can't really say at least a perfect score. It's not like he can get much more than that. I guess technically he also needs, no, he doesn't even need a win with that perfect score. As long as he gets a perfect score, and Verdok doesn't pick up a point, he's fine. If Verdok gets more than 1 point, Chicago's guaranteed in the relegation playoff.
Yeah, Patriots.
Yeah, uh, pretty much what Calamity said. Yeah, there's only a little bit of movement. Just Orpheus, Blinky switching with each other, and Mr. Blue and Veridoc. Mr. Blue's win was very important. He's now even closer to the playoffs, and it's well within his reach. And then Veridoc then moved down, obviously, as a result. But it's not impossible for him, like Calamity was saying. He can still get that perfect score, but it's definitely within the realm of possibility.
Mhm. Yeah, and if Boxa and Raidman keep their 1-2 positions after the next week, we'll have a chance at a rematch of the final from last season because they won't play each other until the very end. So yeah, let's take a look at those Division One matchups in a bit more detail here. As Calamity mentioned, Simi and Bulgar facing off each other at the bottom of the table. But pretty important matches also, Calamity, for Boxa with Orpheus, the two undefeateds going up against each other.
Yeah, for Box, it's mainly just the bragging rights of going undefeated that are still important for him. I mean, I guess technically, Boxer and Raidman could still swap places for the seeding, but it's not like that really matters. You're gonna have to beat everyone anyway. Although I guess you would say, if you can somehow get past a match against Blinky in the semifinals, I think you'll take it. But it's hard to say before you know the results of this week, which position you'll even need for that. Could be first, could be second. Maybe Blinky doesn't even make it. We don't know yet. But yeah, definitely want to keep that unbeaten run alive. Orpheus probably even more so than Boxer, because for him it's still important in the standings. Yeah, Raidman against Ice is a game with no real implications whatsoever, because Ice is already guaranteed to be relegated. And as I said, maybe Raidman can still grab that first spot off Boxer, but yeah, it's not like that really matters. But yeah, for Orpheus, it's still possible somehow to get a draw against Boxer, end the season with 0 losses, and still not make it to the playoffs. Which would be quite unfortunate. But for that, firstly, Blinky would need to win his game against Verdoc, who's definitely not going to make it easy for him. And then Mr. Blue would also need a win against Chicago. And yeah, Orpheus would not be allowed to get a bonus point either. But it has some factors it relies on, but it's not an entirely unrealistic scenario. Yeah, as we mentioned, the other match, Simi against Bulgur, that will decide who will most likely join Chicago in the relegation playoff game. And yeah, as he has the worst score differential, Simi needs a win against Bulgur or a perfect game to get 8th place.
Definitely. Patriots, yeah, Chicago not having an easy opponent for this final week. Mr. Blue fighting for very different things. So definitely no one's going to be taking this one lightly.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. That's an important game among a bunch of important games. And then, yeah, Mr. Blue needs to win to give him a chance at a playoff spot. And he also either need Blinky or Orpheus to lose as well. I do think Mr. Blue is slightly favored, but it's obviously a tough matchup. Chicago is definitely not a pushover, that's for sure. So yeah, I think it'll come down to those other two games, and we'll see if he gets a playoff spot there.
Very nice. Well, let's take a look at the Division 2 results and how things went for them in Africa. And yeah, Patriots, not too bad of a score there for you, but unfortunately, M the Basement putting up some very good numbers again. And another draw for Calamity. Patriots.
Yeah, no, it's not a terrible score, but I'm not too proud of it considering it is the worst one in the division, I do believe. I only had about 3 good rounds. I messed up first round and I just simply went the wrong way. But yeah, and then on another round, I actually found the name of a town that had the same name of where we were, but it was on the other side of the country. So I got that one kind of wrong off that, but it was over on the first round anyway. I even made that comment in my video, and I'm just like, oh well, I can't make a mistake in Division 2. It's tough.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Calamity, another draw for you, but probably even more important, a really rough match for Tall Impala there really hurts his chances going in the last few weeks.
Yeah, definitely Tall not looking very good now in that fight for promotion. Yeah, and in contrast to Division 1, in Division 2, the draws didn't stop. where Pluke and me, proud members of the Draw Club, have collected our 4th and 3rd draw in a row, respectively. At least we both got bonus points for it. So did Guelo. Max not good enough for a bonus point there with 24,930. Yeah, Shumi continuing his form as well in his home continent with a very important win against Clyde there, which puts him into a bit of a better position. And Pastek with another very important win as well against Teskotak down there in a relegation fight.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the Division 2 table. It is very tight, as it been all season. Calamity, despite your 4th draw, still stay at the top of the table. Probably worth noting here is the real march towards the top that Schluti and Shumi have been putting on. Towards the middle of the season, they were in the middle of the pack, but definitely a couple good wins have moved them up towards the top. And the bottom pretty much stays the same, Patriots.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, a lot of movement in the mid to top of the table where it's really close, actually. Yeah, Schluti moved past Pluki and then also moved past Tall Impala, who fell all the way from 3rd to 7th just due to one loss and obviously the closeness of Division 2. So yeah, and then the Baseman moved up 2 spots past Impala and Clyde. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Calamity, pretty much anybody can still get into those even automatic playoff spots, it looks like. But the bottom of the table, pretty much mathematically impossible for everybody, maybe except for Teskotak and Max FI to even climb out of those relegation battles, playoff spots.
Max is only 1 point behind the person in front of him, so that's not so
except
there.
for Max. Said except for Max.
Well, so. Yeah. But I mean, it's still possible. But yeah, the more likely scenario is that we'll see 2 out of Teskotak, Patriots, and Pastek in the automatic relegation zone. So those 3 are going to fight for whoever can get one more chance in the relegation playoff against. We have no idea yet because it could really be anyone out of the top 9 still. Probably unlikely to be me or Schluti because while it's definitely still possible for us to drop out of the promotion spots, for all of the people behind us to make up so many points is quite unlikely. So realistically, we're looking at someone probably even from basement down to max for that 2nd relegation spot because Pluki as well has his perfect game as a tiebreaker. And yeah, as you said, for those 3, it'll be the fight for one more chance. And in the promotion race between 1st and 9th, no one is further than 1 point behind the person next to him. So anything could still happen there with 3 games to go.
Definitely. Well, let's take a look at the Division 2 fixtures for Romania and Patriots. Yeah, opening up against Shumi there. Yeah, Shumi is in really good form, so a bit of a tricky one for you.
Oh yeah, it's a tough matchup. I'm definitely going in as the underdog here, but I think I have a shot. I'll remain optimistic, still try my best. And I actually do quite enjoy playing Romania. It's unique and has several different landscapes throughout the country, and it's quite beautiful. And I don't know, I enjoy practicing it, so hopefully that'll help out a little, but I don't think I gain an edge or anything off of that.
Definitely, yeah. Calamity up against Real Clyde might not be the hardest matchup of the week, but for you, but definitely some very important matches for Tall and Pluki as well.
You say that he's got the 2nd highest score in the division. Clyde does. He's 17 points behind Pluki. So I don't know. I generally like Romania, but it is one of those countries where it can totally happen that you go 3.5 minutes in one direction, find absolutely nothing. So I'm hoping for that not to happen, but we'll see. But yeah, the important matches this week, apart from that, are definitely Schluti against Baseman and Pluki against Max in sort of the promotion race. Apart from those, it's mostly games from someone at the top against someone at the bottom. But even then, I don't actually think there's a clear favorite in any of them. Because I can totally see, like with Pastek now practicing a bit more, and Teskotak, or on the other hand, Toll maybe not being in the best form. And Shumi so far in the last few weeks had some maps that really were good for him. I think Romania is less like those maps we had in the last few weeks. So maybe not the best map. And yeah, Patriots, go and win against Shumi. That would be nice for me.
We'll try.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple upsets this week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the table might appear that there's a lot of top versus bottom, but again, if you look at those stats, everybody's really close. Points are only a few separating them all. Total scores are all over the place, point differences. So it's really anybody's game in Romania for the next week. Well, moving on to division number 3 and their results in Africa. Definitely two very big wins for the American duo here. And as well, Hugo putting up a good fight towards the bottom of that table.
Yeah, the Americans, LCN and Barry, continuing their great performances, getting another 2 wins there. And Freckles and Ortboka lose again, 2 weeks in a row. Will put us into a very interesting position on the table, which we'll see in a bit. But yeah, you said it as well. Hugo with a crucial win there against Freckles. Radox with another pretty bad week there, losing by over 2,000 points against Seppo, who's a direct opponent of his in the relegation fights. And yeah, Paulinho, a pretty good performance for him too.
Yeah, Patriots.
Yeah, the Americans did great here. LCN got that convincing win over what the WTF, getting the highest score in his division. He only really messed up on the last round, and it wasn't like a drastic mess up. And Barry Fishy Bear continues along with his other Division 4 promotee LCN to win these games. He also won pretty convincingly with the second highest score in his division.
Well, let's look at how this Division 3 table is shaping up after 8 weeks. And yeah, pretty much everybody swapping places with their closest opponent here. After this week, the only people really not moving, Benica and towards the bottom, Paulinho in the middle of the table there. But yeah, Calamity getting in towards the tail end of this season. The top 4 going to be staying that way, but the rest of the pack not too far behind.
I mean, it could definitely be the case, but I don't think we're at a point where we can really say that they're going to stay that way. I think, for me personally, 1st to 7th are fighting for promotion, with even some like very slight chances for Seppo still. But yeah, would take quite some surprising results as well for him to make it up there. But yeah, point difference is very small between all of them. Down at the bottom, it's looking like it's going to be a close fight between Seppo, Hugo, Radox, and Benica, with Benica and Seppo still having their red card match to go. So that actually puts Seppo in a pretty good position for that. Hugo would need at least 4, and Radox would need 5 points to catch Seppo in the last 3 weeks. Considering that both of them still have to play Barry and LCN, as well as Radox playing Freckles with Hugo playing Paulinho, it's going to be a very tall task for them. And that is even ignoring that Seppo himself could still get points in his other 2 matches against Closed and Freckles.
Definitely. Yeah. Patriots, how do you think about your fellow Americans' chances here to get promoted in Division 3?
It's definitely looking good. Definitely got the advantage here. LCN moved all the way up to first out with his win, which is good for him. Yeah, Freckles moved down from 2nd to 4th with this loss this week. He's still in a playoff spot with that 2-point gap between him and 5th, but it's a little too close for comfort. And yeah, Radox lost as well. He was the other kind of big movement, putting him down into a relegation playoff spot. But yeah, the Americans looking good in their positioning at the top.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the fixtures then for Romania in Division 3. And as Calamity, you mentioned, Radox has a big task if he wants to start to climb out of that hole against Freckles. But Hugo with an equally big challenge against LCN.
Yeah, I could definitely see both of them playing against each other in the relegation matchup this season, which would be, I think, for both of them just a norm. They're both very accustomed to playing in playoff matches, and yeah, I do think that both of them are probably not the favorites in their matchups, although not only Radox has had some pretty bad form, Freckles has as well. So maybe a slight chance there for Radox. Apart from that, Barry against WTF is definitely another important matchup in the promotion race, and Barry has seemingly easy last 2 weeks, so if he can win here, that could be a real season decider for him. And Closed against Seppo in the German derby is another pretty important one. Both of them could really use a win, though Closed needs it more than Seppo does. Technically, yeah, as I said earlier, the promotion push from Seppo is possible still, but he can get a maximum of 21 points, disregarding perfect games. And so even a perfect end to the season might not get him there. And yeah, Paulinho in his home country against Ortbocker doesn't bode well for the Norwegian, who looked set for promotion just 2 weeks ago, and now he's pretty much almost out of it.
Oh yeah, Patriots. Yeah, Barry, Fishy Bear, and W2F second and third going at it. If Barry wants to get that automatic promotion spot, probably a big must win for him.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was definitely looking forward to this one with two top of the table players looking to try and ensure they keep a spot in the playoffs. That one could really go either way. Then Hyogo's got that tough matchup against LCN. And then I think it's actually pretty interesting to see that Romania actually is a whole map for someone here for Paulinho. It's quite interesting. I'd love to see how much of an advantage he will have over his opponent in this one.
Definitely going to be quite an interesting week for Division 3. Well, down into Division 4 and 5, we're also towards the end of the season, only one more week. And the results in Africa for Division 4A, quite a few very nice scores here. Perfect game for Firebond and just 1 point off for Lunacy Patriots.
Oh yeah, definitely. The most impressive score, obviously, there is Firebond, and then yeah, Lunacy Echo with 1 point off. They both got their wins there. But also, yeah, H-Town put up a nice score himself this week, giving him the largest point differential this week in Division 4A. He had a nice win over Pork Steaks there, and then Hexalt and Nakiro both got over 24,900, giving them the guaranteed draw there. Their scores didn't go unrewarded though, since they got the bonus points. And yeah, Pashtetli also got a very important win over Hidikmi, giving them a better shot at getting out of the relegation playoffs.
Yeah, Calamity, Pashtetli definitely playing spoilers for Hidekmi there. But a couple draws too in the French derby between Hexalt and Nakiro.
Yeah, and this was maybe, I hesitate to call it the easiest seed of the season, because we've definitely had easier seeds, but I don't think we've had seeds with quite as many perfect scores yet in their own division. I think, which one was it? Might have been Lakes of the World or something in Division 4 as well. Or in some of those, one of those lower divisions where we've seen more more perfect games in the seed, but less in the division itself. But yeah, so probably Lunacy will be kicking himself, if we look at the table in a bit, for missing out on that 1 point, because that could have given him a much better chance of promotion. And now he's in a bit of a rough spot. But yeah, of course he'll take those 3 points anyway. And yeah, Pashtetli got the win that he needed against Hedikmi, to at least keep his chances of saving himself without a relegation playoff match alive.
Yeah, there were 3 perfect games in Division 4, and there were 3 perfect games in Lakes of the World for Division 4 as well. So tying that perfect game.
There were 4
number.
this week.
4 this week. 1, 2, 3. Who got the 4th?
I might be misremembering. I was pretty sure that we had 3 in Division 4B.
Tyconicus,
Yeah,
Diesel.
Soviet.
Soviet.
Yeah.
That's who I forgot. Yeah. So outdoing Lakes of the World by 1 with perfect games, 4-3 for that. Okay, let's look at the table for Division 4A then. And yeah, Firebond with his nice perfect game sees himself jump up the top of the table. Lunacy 1 point off, not able to move, still stuck at 4th, but definitely keeping in that race, the top 4 very close, Patriots.
It definitely is super close up top with all 3 people in the top 3 spots having 18 points. And yeah, it was a lot of movement this week for Division 4A, but a lot of them were just like 1 or 2 spots. But Fairbound was the big winner. He, after his perfect game, he shot right up to first past Hexalt and H-Town. And also, yeah, Nakiro passed Solar Sensei with his draw and bonus point. And with Pashtetli's win over Hidikmi, they also passed them in the standings looking to get out of the relegation playoffs.
Yeah, Calamity, definitely a hard line being drawn between 4th and 5th, but that lower part of the table really open to almost anybody except for Anoisel, who's kind of out of the race for only 1 more week to go.
Yeah, we're getting an interesting fight for relegation, or better, against relegation. Porksteak seems pretty safe, as with Pashtetli and Nakro playing against each other in the last week. It would take a very specific result for both of them to get past him. And even then, there would still have to be one of either Solar Sensei or Hedikmi, who'd need a perfect score, overtaking him as well for him to drop down to 8th. For the rest, though, anything is really possible in those relegation battles. At the top, we've got 4 people left fighting for promotion with 2 Frenchmen, 2 Americans. Hexalt and Faraban have the obvious advantage of a perfect game, with H-Town having the best score difference. As such, if H-Town somehow manages to pull off a perfect game, he's almost guaranteed the promotion spot, bar any other perfect games from Faraban or Hexalt. Probably not going to happen, but it could be. And Lunacy is in a position now where you can really see how much he would have needed that extra point from a perfect game there. As it is right now, his chances of making the automatic promotion spot are near 0, but he does still have at least a decent chance of making it into 2nd or 3rd. And yeah, down at the bottom, Neusel's theoretical chances that he still had of leaving 10th place are now gone as well, dropping him to Division 5 for next season.
Well, let's take a look at the matchups for the final week of the regular season for Division 4A. And yeah, Lunacy up against Hidekmi. Not the worst matchup given Hidekmi's bad run of form, but definitely a big important matchup at the top, H-Town versus Farbon Patriots.
Yeah, definitely. That is definitely the match I'm looking forward to the most is H10 and Faraban, or H-Town and Faraban. It will be a top of the table match, both looking to ensure that they get a playoff spot. I think with the win for either of them will clinch them a spot, I'm pretty sure. And then there's other matches that are also pretty important, like Lunacy and Hidekmi. Hidekmi fighting to get out of relegation, Lunacy trying to get into a playoff spot. And then Hexalt and Pork Steaks, there's just mostly Hexalt who's trying to stay in the playoff spot, and then Nictiro and Pastetli, another very important one that could very well determine who isn't in a relegation playoff match.
Yeah, definitely. Calamity, any spoilers maybe here in terms of the lower players taking a win off of the player ranked higher than them in the table at least?
There definitely could be in theory, although I think looking at who's playing against who, it looks relatively unlikely. I don't really see anyone in those matchups where I would say he could make for a good upset. I think Neusel probably the only one who could hurt Solar Sensei's chances of survival, maybe with a bit of luck, Pork Steaks against Hexalt. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of it will come down to H-Town against Faraban in this week. And as long as Faraban gets at least as many points as H-Town, he will stay safely ahead of him. And Hexalt will be hoping for a draw between those two, which would make him the lucky third with a win against Pork Steaks. And yeah, Lunacy can do nothing but win against Hidekmi and hope for the stars to align if he wants an automatic promotion spot. But yeah, if he does win, then his chances of at least making third are pretty good with H-Town and Faraban playing against each other. And yeah, although with Neusel's relegation guaranteed, I did say he might normally be an upset candidate, but maybe he's already given up on the season as well. That would make for an easy win for Solar Sensei. Yeah, as Patriots said, Nakuru against Pastetli is another match that is pretty important in the relegation battle and has direct consequences as well. Beyond the win that Pastetli would need to get past Nakuru, he'd also need to hope that Nakuru doesn't pick up a bonus point if he wants to make it to 7th place. So essentially, if Nakuru gets a bonus point, he's safe from relegation.
Very interesting. Well, can't wait to see how that shapes up. And we'll also need to take a look at the other side of Division 4, Division 4B, and how they're going to finish up the season. And here are their results for Africa. And we had 3 perfect scores. So coming in, joining Firebond, are Soviet Spy, Tyconicus, and Diesel getting perfect games. And that pretty much means that everybody else in the division was at a bit of a loss, having to go up against those. Jay Lyons will really kick himself after we look at this table by missing out on it by only a single point, Calamity.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad for Jake as it was for Lunacy, but it's still pretty bad for him as well. He could have really used that point, but he didn't get it. So it is how it is. Poon Noob with the closest loss of the week at just 102 points. Always hurts a bit as well when you go up against a perfect score and then get 24, 8, 9, 8. Hurts even more when you play first and then you know, oh god, I've left 2 points on the table. It's possible I'll lose here. Unfortunately for him as well, I'm pretty sure that no, at least it should give him a bonus point, shouldn't it? Let me actually double check that. Yes, he did get a bonus point.
Yeah, just
With
barely.
with the fifth best score. Well, yeah, obviously with 3 perfect scores and Jake just missing by 1 point. There's only one spot left in those top 5, but he did get it. And yeah, Steelers Nick is repeating his bad end of the season from season 3, where he picked up just 3 points in his last 3 games, forfeiting an almost secure automatic promotion spot as he gets his second loss in a row.
Yeah, Patriots, anything on Division 4B?
Yeah, lots of very impressive scores from them with the 3 perfect scores in the Soviet Spies game, where he got a perfect score and every point counted, avoiding the draw by like 2 points. So that was very impressive to see. And Jay Lyons also very close to getting that perfect score, only getting 1 point off of a small pinpointing error on round 3 in Nigeria. It was enough to get the win though.
Very nice. Well, let's look at the table for Division 4B and how they're going to go into the final week. Tyconicus now, especially with still this Knicks 2 losses in a row, really has a strong space at that top in the first automatic promotions playoff, but it is very tight after that. 3 players really close to each other within a single game, Calamity. But then Jay Lyons and Wakelock within very far outside chance of mathematically possible, but maybe not really practical.
Probably not really happening, yes. Tyconicus is the first person we can congratulate on a guaranteed promotion this season. And behind him, it's Diesel, Steel the Snick, and Soviet who will duke it out amongst themselves for the other 2 playoff spots. Jake would have been part of that group if he had just scored that 1 more point this week. But yeah, as it stands, he, Wakelock, and Zotomo have nothing but placement to play for in the last week. Yeah, of course, technically, Jake could still get a perfect score and overtake Steel the Snick if he gets no points, same as Wakelock could in theory. But in Romania, I don't think so. Yeah, below those 3, we've got Poon Noob, Edward, and Fios fighting against relegation, although Poon Noob seems relatively secure in a relegation playoff spot, at least.
Yeah, definitely. Patriots.
Yeah, the relegation playoffs is pretty much just set, as we can see on the table. They're right there, but they could move around between relegation playoffs and automatic relegation between Theos and Edward. And at the top of the table, there's also a pretty decent gap between playoff spots and middle of the table. But Soviet Spy definitely still has that chance to get into the playoff spot as well.
Yeah, really working on that second half of the season comeback. Did not start the season well at all, but now he sees himself with a chance at getting promoted out of Division 4B, does Soviet. Well, yeah, the matchups in Romania are not going to be really easy for a whole lot of people. Big relegation fight there at the bottom, Calamity, with Theos taking on Edward. Tyconicus against Steelers Nick would be an interesting match if Tyconicus wasn't so far ahead for them.
Yeah, still, Nick will probably hope that Tyconicus might not practice all that much with his promotion safe, although Tyconicus is still on for an unbeaten season, and I think that would, take precedence and might make him at least practice a little bit, just to keep that. Maybe the similarity between Italian and Romanian will also help him a bit, although there's rarely any real need to read much of the language while playing Romania. And yeah, Zotomo has already made it clear that he couldn't care less about this week, so it looks like Steel the Snick and Diesel will need at least 1 point if they want to feel safe against Soviets. And yeah, Edward and Fios are fighting directly against each other for the last relegation spot next to Poon Noob.
Yeah, Patriots, that Jay Lyons and Wakelock, a bit of a bragging rights matchup, but still going to be very important for both of them going into this final week.
Definitely, yeah. The big one though that I'm looking forward to is Edward versus Theos. The game basically decides who gets an automatic relegation, who gets a relegation playoff spot. So yeah, Stealth is Nick against Tyconicus, where it'll be a top table battle, which is always fun to watch. But in Stealth is Nick will try to keep himself in the playoffs in that match.
Very nice. Well, let's move on to our final division in Division 5A. And yeah, we had 2 draws here, no perfect games in this group. Probably the biggest thing here is Mr. Fish playing spoilers for Geoguessr Patriots.
But yeah, that was a very impressive win. He got his first win over the season. And Marcus got a good win for himself as well over GRH. And then it was kind of surprisingly, they're with the 2 draws this week, with neither of them being above that 24,900 threshold. But yeah, Hergemine and Sky Blue got a draw without getting bonus point, and then Conscious and Ollie got a draw as well. But this time they got a bonus point out of it, and I bet they wish they played someone else this week. But hey, at least they got the bonus point.
Yeah, definitely. Calamity.
Well, at least they didn't play Seb. And
Yeah.
yeah, probably the two most crucial ones here are Geoguessr losing against Mr. Fish, to give Mr. Fish the assurance that he at least won't leave Reddit League without a single win. And yeah, hey, Yemine dropping some important points there against Sky Blue. As Patriots said, no bonus point for him either. So that is a big hit to his promotion chances.
Looking at the table then, and going into their final week, and not a whole lot of movement. Here Yemeni with his loss does drop down to third, but still in that playoff spot as it is. Yeah, Mr. Fish also moving up with his win, but again, in those automatic relegation spots already decided going into this week even. But yeah, Patriots, the middle of the pack is probably the most interesting thing here. Ollie in fourth, only 1 point behind here Yemeni, but again, he's only a point or two ahead of Sky Blues, who's in seventh in that relegation battle.
Yeah, exactly. It's really close in that mid table there, and then yeah, not a lot of movement. Obviously, at the top there are just a couple of spots switch, and at the bottom as well. Yeah, Conscious Pie passed Harryman and both staying in the playoff spot, and like I said, Mr. Fish passing GRH. Both are automatically relegated, but he got his first win, so that's good for him.
Yeah, Calamity, we can probably crown our second automatic promotion player in Turbicus, going 8-0, 24 points, 6 points clear of Niles there in second.
Yeah, dominant season from him as the only player who has won all of their games so far this season in Reddit League, although you always have to say that not only comes down to yourself, but only your opponent, but your opponent as well. If he gets above 24.9k, you can do whatever you want. You're not going to get a win there. But it's still nice for him to get those 8 out of 8 wins. And yeah, behind him will be between Niels, Heyemine, and Ollie for the other 2 promotion playoff spots. And on the other hand, Kiribati, Geoguessr, and Sky Blue fighting for survival. And even Marcus Fenn still has a chance of making 7th place.
Let's take a look at their fixtures for the final week that will decide quite a bit here. Cerberkist will be looking to protect his perfect season against GRH, who's in the last place, but who knows? GRH might try to be a bit of a spoiler here for this one, Patriots.
Yep, definitely. That's all GRH will kind of try doing there is play spoiler against Seb, and Seb will obviously want to get that perfect season going. So he'll look to still try as hard as he can there. And the matchup I'm most looking forward to is Ali versus Kiribati, simply because if Ali wins and either Seb or Harry Yaman loses, Ali gets a playoff spot then in that case.
Yeah, Calamity, that matchup between Ollie and Kiribati will be definitely looking towards Hiremini and Mr. Fish in their matchup, because that'll pretty much decide who gets into that playoff spot.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. For Kiribati himself, he does still have a bit of a chance as well, but he needs the win against Ollie for sure, and then he needs to hope that Niels and Heyemine drop some points. And Ollie is pretty much in the same situation as well. He needs to hope for Niels and Heyemine to drop some points as well. But the thing is, playing against Mr. Fish and Sky Blue for those two should, in theory, be relatively easy matchups. So, yeah, could be just that we don't really see any more changes in the table during the last week. And yeah, Sepp Kiers will just have a nice, easygoing victory lap there in the last week, probably.
Very nice. Well, then our final division and their results in Africa Division 5B. The 2 red card players cancel each other out, so everybody had to play this week. And Calamity, a huge, that's not the right, yeah, huge loss for Danny Blondes against Vincenzo in that Italian derby, and a very unexpected pickup of 3 points for Troy there against Labam Greb, ruining his perfect season.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say the win from Troy against Laban was that surprising. Definitely less surprising than Vincenzo's win against Danny Blondes. Danny Blondes definitely had some very rough last few weeks, dropping a lot of points. He seemed almost like the favorite for, not even almost, he seemed like the favorites for the automatic promotion spot after like 4 or 5 weeks, and then everything just fell apart. But yeah, apart from those two, Clemens got the win that he needed to get with no real problems there. And Xander with a win against Bombadil, also not a big surprise there.
Yeah, Patriots.
Yeah, Troy pulled off that very nice win against Lavengreb, giving Lavengreb his first loss of the season. Which so props to Troy there. And then there was the Bombadil and Xander match where I'm sure Bombadil wished he played someone else as he got in the top half of division scores, but Xander still ended up with the highest score in the division this week. So he'll be compensated with the bonus point though. And then Vincenzo got the win over Danny Blunds, and then Clemens got the nice win over Nabend.
Very nice. Well, yeah, it is Labangreb who will get the automatic promotion spot from this one. As well, unless I guess Xander could get a perfect game and make it a little bit complicated. But it's pretty much all but assured that he will be promoted at least. But yeah, Calamity between second and sixth. It's only 2 points separating all of them.
Yeah, and that looks like really anything could happen, but I'm not going to talk about who's going to get promoted here during this, but I'll talk about it during the matchups later on. Just keep this table in mind, because it's actually quite clear. It's not as open as it looks. And yeah, Danny Blonde's just dropping all the way down to 6th and suddenly finds himself in the relegation zone. Also probably not something nice to look forward to whoever would have to face him from the other division in the relegation playoffs if it comes down to it. But yeah, Labangreb almost safe, like you said. Xander can still get past him with a perfect game. But yeah, would be a surprise. No one in this division so far, apart from Labangreb, has got a perfect game, and I don't know why they'd start in Romania of all places. But yeah, with Troy having his red card game next week, that's mainly what makes this so almost clear cut.
Yeah, definitely. Patriots.
Yeah, I noticed that the Troy game as well, and yeah, I was gonna hold off then on that until looking at the matchups. But yeah, it does make it a bit more clear cut than it may appear. But something I didn't notice at first, but Danny Blonde's going down from second in a playoff spot all the way down to 7th, and then in a relegation playoff spot is quite the change off of just one loss.
Yeah, things are very tight at that top of the table in Division 5B. And as we take a look at that results, as you've already mentioned, Troy does have a bye week in the final week against that one Will Girl. So he will pick up 3 points, which means he's sitting at already 21 points, only 1 point off of Labangreb, and would put him in second if nobody else picked up any points. But yeah, quite a few matchups, especially Calamity, Xander, and Vincenzo, currently second and third against each other.
Yeah, and as it looks right here, Troy is pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot unless Xander and Vincenzo both get perfect games against each other. In that case, Troy would stay in 4th place, which would be quite unfortunate. But yeah, it's definitely one play. Well, 99.9% one place goes to Troy and the other place goes to the winner between Xander and Vincenzo, where Xander is definitely heavily favored for that game. But you never know. Maybe Vincenzo pulls out a surprise win. And that also, at the same time, means that Danny Blondes is pretty much guaranteed to not get promoted or even into the top 3, which you probably would have said is absolutely not going to happen after like 4 or 5 weeks. But he somehow managed to get himself down there into 6th. So he's going to fight against claimants for whoever out of those two can or doesn't have to play in the relegation playoff, and doesn't have to join Bombadil down there.
Definitely, yeah. Patriots, really the interesting matchup is maybe Clemens and Danny Blondes as well. Both of them fighting to stay up in Division 5.
Yeah, definitely. Clemens versus Danny Blondes could be a big matchup. It could be a big matchup in another way out instead of just the relegation playoffs. Is if Xander and Vincenzo end up having a draw, then in that case, the winner between Clemens and Danny could even claim the last playoff spot in that case, just off of point differential. And it makes and yeah, I'm really interested in that Vincenzo for Sander match. It's top table, and it's just basically whoever wins the match will most likely be in a playoff match against what's his name?
Troy.
Troy. Sorry, Troy. Thank you.
Yeah,
There
let me
we
let me
go.
just quickly get in there one more time because yeah, I did mean to mention it but forgot then the thing with the draw and Clemens against Danny Blondes as well.
Mhm.
Clemens actually is the one who still has a chance. Danny Blondes doesn't anymore because of score differential. So even if Sander and Vincenzo draw and Danny Blondes wins, he'd be level on points with Sander, but he's got the worst score differential. Unless he can get like somehow more than 7,000 points of score differential against Clemens, which I think is unlikely, as there's still quite a lot to play for him as well. But Clemens does have the best score differential out of those. So if Clemens wins and Vincenzo and Sander draw, and Vincenzo could even pick up a bonus point for top 50%, that doesn't matter, but Sander can't, then Clemens does still have a chance, but that's a lot of hypotheticals. And yeah, he'd need a win against Danny Blondes first foremost, or a perfect game.
Definitely, yeah. So a lot of tight matchups in Division 1, 4, and 5 as they head into their final season. So you don't want to miss any of those. We'll try to bring you as many of those matches as we can. And if anything, definitely check out the show next week to see how the playoff picture for those 3 divisions will be shaping up. In Division 2 and 3, still got a few more weeks to go, but things are starting to get very tight in some of the battles at the top and the bottom of the tables. So we look forward to talking about those next week. Well, as we've been talking about it all evening, it is Romania for our map that will decide quite a few things in 3 divisions. It is our first official map of the season, and it might be our only official map. The Singapore map is not official, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I can't actually see what map he's picked because he hasn't entered a link yet. Schmingo. Yeah, this was actually a change, Calamity, because of the map we had originally selected for Romania was really urban and was showing a little bit playing too easy, perhaps, for Schmingo's liking. So we moved to the official map, which definitely covers enough of the country.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense to have like an urban map. Like here, it's hard to tell sometimes because like if you look at it and if it's just a polygonal map, then you'd normally assume that these random people who create these maps just draw a polygon around the country and leave it be. But apparently this person had chosen to draw polygons around cities, maybe, and then save the map as is. I doubt with as many locations as it would require to make a map that even is eligible for Reddit League, that the locations were handpicked. But yeah, obviously, I can't really have that, so we went for the official map. And the only problem we've always got with the official maps is you wrote there it's 10k plus locations, but I don't think it actually tells you how
No,
many
it doesn't tell you.
locations there are in official maps. So it could be 10,000, it could be 70. It's not 70, but you know what I mean. It could be like 600, 700. And I had one instance in practice where I had the same round in 2 games back to back. But to be honest, it was the only round I'd had a repeat of. So maybe just a crazy coincidence. But yeah, Romania in and of itself is quite fun to play. It plays a bit differently than most of the countries we've had so far this season. If you are in like a very rural area, then of course it does play pretty similarly again to countries like Saskatchewan or Iceland, maybe, where you just go for 3 minutes and then see if you can find a sign somewhere. But apart from that, most locations in Romania are relatively close to some decent signage. So usually you wouldn't have to worry about finding some information in 3, 4, 5 minutes. Mostly what you're looking for are going to be signs that tell you the road numbers or just distances to bigger cities. Although usually if it tells you distance to a bigger city, it'll also have the road number on the sign. Same goes for marker stones. Romania, one of the famous marker stone countries, alongside... Yep. I don't know all of them, but Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia are some of the more famous ones. I think Jordan sometimes has marker stones as well. You've also got some very good pieces of information you'll find on those EU developmental signs. that will usually give you the municipality or the region on it. And landscape-wise, Romania is not. It is relatively diverse, but not in the sense that you can go, okay, we've got this, so we're definitely in this place of the country.
Yeah.
But it's sort of the center of it, as well as sort of the more western parts, are relatively mountainous, relatively green, and the far south, the far southwest at least, and I think some of the more northern parts are relatively flat and a bit more dry. And honestly, I don't think. I'm just thinking about it. I don't think I had a single round near the. Is it an ocean or is it no? It's just a sea, right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
Black Sea. I don't think I had a single round near the Black Sea in all of my practice rounds, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, Patriots, your take on Romania.
Yeah, like I said before, I do quite like playing in Romania. Like it does have diverse landscapes, but again, not in that same way where it's like Kyrgyzstan, for example, where you can recognize pretty much exactly where you are without moving sometimes. But it's enough to where you can narrow down your search to at least part of the country and then look up for things that you found like on signs in only certain areas, which is nice that you can rule out big chunks of the country. I think it's a very pretty and unique country, and I do enjoy playing it, so I should have fun practicing it for it as well.
Mhm. Yeah, the only one thing that Clemmy did mention is that he does still have the opportunity of going 3-4 minutes in a direction and seeing nothing, especially in a lot of those mountain roads that kind of wind around and you won't see much. But a very beautiful country indeed. And yeah, definitely keep an eye out for those little signs tucked away everywhere that could give you a clue for that. Probably one of the hardest things is sometimes you get a road number, but you're not sure what what level it's at, right? Because you can get like a 2. Is that a really small local road, or is it always going to be that big red kind of national road that stands out on the map? You're never quite sure about that. But yeah, and definitely with almost 100,000 plays, average score of 13,000 definitely speaks to how difficult this one can be for our players. But we're looking forward to how things might turn out in this map nonetheless. Well, thank you all for watching. It has been a great season, and we can't wait to get to the playoffs and just one more week to get there. And it'll be really interesting. And we will see you all in Romania next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.